Do you sometimes feel guilty when you just want to rest, where you take a break and you do nothing, and you feel like you should be doing something, but inside of you there seems to be a blockage, and you don't know what's happening, and you feel really bad about it, and maybe you want to force yourself or push yourself to just do something because you feel like you should be doing something. And this almost inability of taking a break and of resting, this is what I want to talk about today. Because for many of us who have deep wounds and trauma, it's even harder for us to take a break and to listen to ourselves and to our body. And it's already a collective problem, let's say, and I'm going to talk more about that later. So I haven't made a video in 3 weeks, and that topic came up for me big time. And not because I was lazy, there were reasons for that. And so this hit me big time, and I think it's important to talk about this, how important it actually is to sometimes take a break, to rest, and to do nothing, and why this is so hard for us. Because taking a break can literally feel wrong. It can trigger anxiety. It can make us feel very guilty and lazy, especially when you were told that when you were younger by your parents or your teachers or whoever, that, what, you're just sitting there, do something, don't be lazy, you're so lazy. I certainly heard that all the time. And so this is wired into us, that we have to be productive, that it's wrong to take a break, it's wrong to do nothing, because that means you're lazy. And for some of us, or maybe many of us, certainly for me, it's true that there is a correlation between being productive and doing something and your value, especially in the society we live in most Western societies, I think. So for me, a few weeks ago, I hit a point where I knew I couldn't really keep recording these videos as I have. There's something felt a bit unaligned or off, and I didn't really know what. I also didn't feel very inspired anymore. And I had my birthday coming up, and I was going someplace else in a very quiet place in the north of Bali, and I met some friends there. And even though it was my birthday and it was like I was on vacation, I found it very, very hard to just accept that it's okay to not do anything. It's okay to just be. It's okay to have some fun with people and to do nothing. So I brought stuff with me, my tripod and whatever, but I didn't touch it, and already that made me feel bad. Then I had a healing session with like a Balinese healer, and that was like, it was very strong. There was a massive release. I'm not going into that right now, but just that alone would have triggered needing a massive rest, because this is like from the spiritual to the emotional to the physical body. These things take a lot of energy, and these things, you need rest. But for me, I realized how hard it is to just rest and do nothing. I kind of hit a 0 point where I knew, okay, however I worked in the past and however I did that was not aligned anymore, and that was gone, but a new way of doing things wasn't there yet. And I kind of waited for weeks to feel inspired enough and to feel good enough and to have the energy back. So that just didn't happen. So maybe you know what I'm talking about when you hit this 0 point moment where everything goes quiet, and where maybe the way that you've done things before and how you did things before, maybe you were used to pushing yourself and forcing yourself and just doing. Maybe that didn't work anymore. And that's the moment where many of us just panic. So in this moment, most people, this is when they start thinking, what is wrong with me? I should be doing something. And we see it as a failure. And we make it as if there's something wrong, and there's something wrong with us. But what if that is just part of the work? What if that is part of the process? And what if that is exactly what needs to happen in that phase you are in? And it's not failure, it's actually a very necessary and very integral part of the healing process. And that comes first, I think, from conditioning, from the conditioning and programming we went through when we were children or adolescents or even young adults. That comes from our caregivers, from our parents. Maybe you had hypercritical parents. When you're watching these videos on this channel, maybe you know already that you had trauma. And maybe no matter what you ever did and what you ever accomplished, your parents never said, well done, and I'm so proud of you, and this is great. And you were never allowed to just celebrate your successes and accomplishments and rest. It's very important when we do something and we accomplish something, that then we acknowledge that and then we rest and we also celebrate it. But if that never happened, if your parents never ever celebrated your successes, acknowledged them and let you then rest, and it was always just what's next, you're not doing this yet and you haven't done that yet, then you just don't learn yourself how to let things land, how to let things register in your body when you doing some good work or some hard work, whether that's external work or internal work, healing work, or anything like that. Any kind of work, any kind of like an achievement or an accomplishment, you are not used to let it land. You don't register it as a success, and it never feels complete. So there is always the next thing. You're already focused on the next thing, what to do next. But the problem is then you never let yourself feel it. You don't feel the joy of having accomplished something, and you don't let yourself rest. And maybe you had the feeling you needed to earn validation, you needed to earn approval from your parents, for example. Like, love and validation was tied to not who you are, a perfectly lovable and worthy and deserving of love and goodness human being. It was tied to your productivity, to your accomplishments. For example, your grades in school, or how good you were in ballet or tennis, or I don't know what. And it was never really about you as a human being. It was always like what you were doing and what you were good in and what you could accomplish. But your parents never really gave you that approval. And so you kept on doing and kept on trying more. There's always more. I need to do better. I need to do more. And up to this day, as an adult, there's still maybe a little inner child in you that keeps doing, and waiting to finally get the validation and the reward and the praise from parents that are basically long gone. The parents of your childhood. There is a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old in you that is still waiting for the well done. I'm so proud of you. And as I said before, many of us heard constantly, you're so lazy, what are you doing? Don't sit around. Don't just sit around and read. Don't just sit around and, daydream, do something. So of course you learned doing something, being productive means I'm valuable. And doing nothing, which is of course, for example, resting, means I'm lazy, I'm wrong, I'm a failure. And on the nervous system layer, if you have trauma, of course, the nervous system is already in a constant state of dysregulation. There is a hypervigilance going on, a hyper-alertness going on. You're probably all the time activated. And I remember, how it used to be when I was younger. I could not be alone and I could not sit still. it was incredibly hard for me just to sit around and do nothing. Like, even if I was alone in my apartment, the TV had to be on, or there was no phone yet. I'm that old. But I had to constantly call someone, I had to constantly distract myself or numb myself, because as soon as I would sit still and do nothing, that anxiety would creep up, and a kind of heaviness and even depression and emptiness. And of course, I didn't know back then that I had a lot of trauma that was completely unhealed. Even if you don't have trauma and you're just a normal human being in the world we live in, the nervous system is so used to be constantly in motion, to be constantly activated, to constantly get the input from the external world, to be constantly be focused on something outside of yourself, and constantly like be alert and doing and be productive. So of course, when you stop, it doesn't feel like rest. It feels like unease. It can feel like anxiety. It can even feel like, as I said before, for me, it can feel like depression, emptiness, heaviness, because it's wired in you that your system doesn't register stillness as safe. It registers as dangerous. And then there is another layer. It's the identity layer. A lot of us, especially in the Western world, this whole thing about doing, working, being productive, being out there, performing, that has become part of our identity. Because the world we live in, especially in the Western world and in the Western cultures, that is rewarded. It is celebrated when you are constantly busy, when you're constantly doing something. And even when you take time out, for example, you go on a retreat, or you go on, I don't know, like a meditation retreat or something, even that can turn into a performance. When you post it on social media and you're like, look what I'm doing, I'm taking time out, I'm doing something for myself, but you still need external validation for that. You still need to show others how productive you are with your inner work, with your taking time out. I mean, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just still tied to that external validation thing that you usually would have gotten from, for example, your parents or your teachers when you were little, by doing something, by, I don't know, getting good grades or being good in a sports or something. So for a lot of people, productivity becomes a way to regulate. It gives you a sense of meaning, it gives you direction, and it gives you something to do. And then this is how you are. This is how you think you are. Like, this is who I am. I am someone who does stuff, who gets things done. I am productive. I do this and that. So of course, something in you is terrified to stop doing that, because if that drops away, what are you left with? Who are you then? If your whole identity is tied to doing and to working and to being productive, then it can almost feel like losing yourself, and like almost like an identity death, because it threatens your sense of self. Who am I if I'm not doing this? Okay, all that being said, not all rest and not all doing nothing is actual rest, necessary rest. Sometimes it can mean that we use things as excuses to not do anything. It can actually become procrastination and avoidance. Especially, again, having trauma, procrastination and avoidance can already be a trauma response, because we don't want to deal with things. And we don't want to, our ego mind is usually constructed in a way that it doesn't want to do the things that would be actually good for us, because it wants to keep in control, and it wants to keep you in the comfort zone, in what's familiar. So sometimes doing something means doing something new, doing something different, And that scares that part in you a lot. It scares the ego, it scares the inner child, it scares whatever other parts in you, maybe wounded parts. And it doesn't want to go out and do that stuff. For example, I don't know, go traveling, doing something else, starting a new thing, a new hobby, a new, whatever, a new healing modality, because then your ego mind starts to tell you all kinds of excuses why you shouldn't do that. And then you can fall into the trap of basically telling yourself, no, but I still need to rest, I can't do this, so I'm not doing this. So it's not always that black or white, it's nuanced, and you need to develop some sort of inner discernment and, of course, honesty towards yourself. Like, only you can know where you are, at what point in life you are, and if you actually really truly need rest, or maybe you need to be doing something different. And maybe you're using taking a rest or whatever as an excuse. So for example, I procrastinated forever, for many, many, many years, to start doing my videos, because I told myself I wasn't ready. And I mean, I kind of wasn't ready because I had a lot of healing work still to do. But, there comes a point where we tell ourselves, no, I wait until I feel ready, until I feel inspired enough, until I'm good enough, until I'm healed enough. But that's kind of a trap, because you're probably never ready, or you never feel ready. And inspiration, I mean, at least for me, I waited until like this lightning comes down from the heavens and and I'm totally inspired, and then I make the perfect videos. But I don't think it works that way. I think it's important to just show up and allow yourself to just do it messily, to just be sloppy at first, because whenever you're doing something new or something different, you probably don't know really how to do it. But that doesn't mean that it's the wrong thing for you. It just means that mastery comes with practice and with time, and it's just important to start doing something, however imperfectly. So don't use taking a break or resting as an excuse for not doing something that would be actually good for you, that would help you, and maybe that would even bring you on your soul path towards your destiny, or whatever your soul wants you to do in this lifetime. And as I mentioned before, it is very difficult, because the culture we usually live in the Western world, is a very, very masculine-driven energy and culture of doing, being productive. There is hustle culture, I guess, in the States and elsewhere. Where I grew up in Germany, it's called Leistungsgesellschaft, which means work performance culture, which basically means that you have to prove yourself first by performing, by working, by being productive, by accomplishing something. And maybe then you have the right to take up space, to just be there. To live in this country and to participate in life. Like, you have no inherent worth unless you don't work, unless you don't do something, unless you're not somehow always busy and always productive. So the culture we live in is obsessed with doing, is obsessed with always faster, always better, always more. But we're not, this is not how we naturally are. This is not how we are wired, because we're just part of nature. We're just part of nature, just like animals and trees and flowers and the seasons. And nature is a very feminine energy, and it moves in cycles and rhythms. And no matter if you're a man or a woman or whatever gender, we all have a masculine and a feminine energy within us. And we can't always just do. We can't always just be productive. And if we force ourselves, and if we push ourselves, especially when organically there would be a season or a phase of needing rest for whatever reason, because maybe you're doing the healing work, maybe there's a deep transformation going on deep within that you can't see, but it makes you feel really exhausted. And then you keep pushing. I mean, that's how we drive ourselves into burnouts. I certainly had many burnouts in my life, and since I was little, I basically refused to partake in that hustle culture, in the rat race and everything. And only when I was 31, I left it and I started traveling and I started to do the healing work and all of that. But I didn't know how I transferred that conditioning of doing, and being super productive and always more and always better. I transferred it to the traveling first and then the healing. I still did the same thing, just not with a 9-to-5 job, but I did it with the traveling. I needed to go everywhere. I needed to be the perfect whatever backpacker to do 5 countries within 5 days. I had a burnout after the first few weeks of traveling. I couldn't walk anymore, because I overdid it, and I never slept enough. I never rested enough. I didn't eat well. Of course, I drank too much and all of that, but I just broke down. I couldn't walk anymore. I had a complete burnout and my body said, nope, this is it. And sometimes, when we let it get this far, our body can actually really pull the brakes and say no more. Whether that's, a burnout, a certain illness, sometimes even when you break your leg or something and you cannot move, you cannot physically move anymore for weeks and months, you're forced to take a break. That can be the way of your being, your soul, telling you, no, you have to stop doing what you're doing. This is not sustainable, it's not healthy, and it's not good for you. So be very mindful of that programming and that conditioning that is maybe so subconscious that even if you don't do it the way that other people do it, you still transfer the same pattern to other things, like I did with the traveling and then the healing thing. And as I said, we are, especially as women, but everyone, we have a deep feminine nature too, and we are closely connected to the feminine energy and Mother Nature, and she moves in cycles and rhythms. So for example, she can't bloom all year round. There are no fruits growing all the time. There needs to be a shedding in autumn, and there needs to be a resting in winter. And we look at the trees and the naked soil, and it looks like death. It looks like absolutely nothing is happening. But it is a necessary rest deep underneath in the soil that is going on, that prepares the flowers and the trees and all of that to bloom again in spring, which means new life. But there is no new life without that deep rest, and that deep rest means transformation. And transformation is such an integral part. I mean, that's half of the name of my channel, because transformation is what healing is about, is what inner work is all about. You're transforming, you're transmuting something. When you heal yourself, what's really going on is a transformation. Something old has to die in order to something new to arise within you. So if you don't give yourself the necessary rest like Mother Nature does in winter, how do you want to get the good stuff? Because it happens deep underneath, in the stillness of the soil, in you. In the unseen layers. I know that sometimes it takes longer than we would like to. I know for sure that's true for me. Like, I get very impatient and I just want to do stuff again. But I also have the experience that when I do things prematurely, or I push myself too much or too early, then there is a fallback. Then I pay the price later. Again, burnout, or things collapse again, or things just take much longer than if I had allowed myself the time, the necessary time that I would have needed and the transformation would have needed. So we cannot expect ourselves to be productive all the time. I know that this world, the Western culture, is all about instant gratification, instant results, and doing. But we cannot create from depletion. And we cannot create from still ongoing transformation that is just unseen. We just sometimes have to trust. We just sometimes have to trust that whatever is happening is exactly the right thing at the right time. And of course, we see it that way, that if nothing is happening, if nothing tangible happens out there in the real world, if there are no results, then you fail and it's not working, and that's not true. That's not true at all, unless you have been doing the same thing for like 5 or 10 years and there's no difference or no result or no change. Then I probably would say, okay, maybe look at if you're doing something wrong and maybe change it and do something new. But the truth is that real, true, deep and lasting healing is not about instant results. It's not instant gratifications. There is no quick fix either. I keep saying it, especially healing trauma on all levels, healing deep trauma and deep wounds. It's not like that. It's just not. But when things go quiet and when nothing is happening, that doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. And it doesn't mean that nothing will ever change. Just trust and be patient. And if anything, then just surrender the whole thing from your ego mind that tries to fix it and figure things out and wants to push and wants to know what happens next and when. Just surrender it to your higher power, to your soul, to the divine, whatever you want to call it, and trust that just like Mother Nature, maybe you are in a season of winter that just needs rest. But it's not for nothing. It's because there's a transformation happening that prepares you for a new life in spring. So if you're in a phase right now where you feel unmotivated, uninspired, stuck somehow, and you feel bad about it, and you want to push, you want to force, you want to do, your mind tells you no, but we need to be doing this and we need to be doing that, then just observe it and just be okay with it. Just try to be okay with, maybe this is part of the process. Maybe this is actually doing the work. And give yourself permission to heal, to rest, to take a break. And also be mindful, if that has been going on for a while, that you don't use it as an excuse for staying in the comfort zone and not doing something that would be actually good for you. So that's the other side of the coin. So for me, I realized, okay, after 3 weeks, I still don't feel super inspired, but I'm just using that for my next video, what has been going on for me in my life, and however imperfectly, I just, sometimes it's good to just show up. So that's it for today, my friends. I hope it was helpful for you, or at least some of it. And if you're in that place right now, then just cut yourself some slack. Be kind to yourself. Take a break. Do something different. Maybe do something that you can enjoy, or something for fun, or just do absolutely nothing, and that's okay too. That's okay too, because naturally things will start moving again in the exact right time. So thank you for watching this. Please like, subscribe, share, and I hope to see you next time, and I wish you a great day. Bye bye.